Hello and welcome to Lands Unknown Live. My name is Will, and today we are Bibful. Bib is here.
Hello, yes, I am back from my unexpected sojourn last week.
And uh, for those of you who weren't here last week, um, we outlined the sort of typical morphs for morphologies for three broad groups of griffin. We have the ghoul or rose griffin, which are the little rodentesque ones. We have the tene griffins, which are these more slender griffins. And then we have the larger ver griffins, though I think the tincture in French is like sinople or something like that. We also spent some time looking at various heraldic things to come up with a naming convention, which I think was Kate's suggestion, which I enjoy. That the griffins feel somewhat French to me.
Hmm.
I guess there are heraldic terms. I think there are tinctures in German, but I think it's just the German color words. Which, yeah, I don't know, but it is what it is. So we've got these three different morphs, and they are going to emerge about, yeah, like 75, 70 million years ago at the beginning of our, where is our cladogram here? Yeah, so kind of at the beginning of this situation, we have them breaking off into the rhynchocephalian, the rhynchosauric, and I guess the parrotfish jaws. And that is happening after a bunch of volcanism and during a period of rapid cooling, because it was quite warm for a period of time and then starts cooling down. So while we're dealing with this sort of like 75 to 50 million year period, the planet has, like I guess like a post-industrial average temperature. So, like 12 to like 14 degrees or whatever,
Mhm.
as like a global average. And so, where are we? Hello, Soup Crime. I like, yeah, fun names. So we got our Robinson projection up here. So this is the 50 million year mark. And something to note about Zalea is it is slightly more centered on the equator. The eastern part of Zalea, the transmetrine part that we're working at, is going to be fairly, not fairly, it's going to be much more humid than it is in the present time. And that is because we don't have the plateau here. So we have moisture coming kind of from the south. There's going to be a decent amount of aridity on the western side of the mountains, but that's still the case in the current climate. We also don't have we also have like an open sea area up here, which can bring moisture to the continent. And we don't, we do have rising mountains along the leading edge of Proto-Bacera. We don't yet have the collisions with Polomia that create a lot of like sea ice and things like that to limit precipitation. So we're going to have a decent amount of precipitation in there, and it's going to be rather mild. So we are probably still going to see, it drop below 10 degrees and stuff like that. In the north, there's a decent amount of places with higher elevation, but the adaptations for more increasing aridity for these critters is definitely going to occur after the 50 million year mark. So we're currently looking at a cooling climate, but one that is quite humid. So right now, if we're thinking about I guess the eastern coast of North America, where it's quite humid all year round, or I guess East Asia works as well, because although there is a monsoon, the monsoon wouldn't be as strong for Zalea at this moment than it is later after Arukia collides with it. So there wouldn't be a monsoon, but like thinking about pretty humid East Coast climates, that sort of thing, when we're all right. So the periodization is going to be about 75 to 50 million years, and then 50 to 25, and it's sort of, and the separation between I guess the 50 and the 25, I'll find out the exact date I have in my geologic history for when like Arukia and Polomia kind of fully collide. And then that will separate to the present, or the 0 year. Yeah, it's generally what I'm thinking. But we've got our three. Yeah, so we've got our three morphologies we're working from, and we did have some ideas about different body plans and stuff like that. Is there? Oh, and did you see the updated sketches?
I may have. I was. Hold on. Because I watched back through the stream earlier this week. There's the arboreal one, the tree.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that one was looking pretty cool. Where are we going? Here we go. Let's scroll through all these little guys. Yeah, there we go. So we got the arboreal one. I think this one looks pretty cool. And what I was thinking for the little hands, and this is the thing that would involve with the sort of knife-faced baboon ones, is having essentially like two thumbs to help them grip. Thinking kind of like a chameleon, I suppose. Because the chameleon has like a, whatchamacallit, kind of like a clasping hand. Oh no, did we lose Bib? Oh no. All right, I'm sure I'll be back in a sec.
It just randomly decided to just kick me out. Don't know why.
Strange.
But I'm back again.
You are back. So from the grasping hands that have these two thumbs on either side, working towards, kind of knuckle walking posture for the knife-faced baboon ones, where they can kind of curl both of their thumbs back here.
So these are descended from the arboreal forms?
These ones, yeah. And
hence the knuckle walking.
Hence the knuckle walking. Big fan of knuckle walking.
I love knuckle walking.
A lot of the monotrematiforms on Dove have knuckle walking, though that's more so, I guess, derived from like the reason why platypuses have it, because they have their sharp claws.
Yes.
So, like the minotaur and stuff like that, the brownies, they knuckle walk because they have sharp claws and they don't want to scrape them against the ground. These ones are going to be knuckle walking because they're derived
Mhm. Yeah.
from the arboreal guys. And I am going to change the I think the jaws a little bit for these ones. I think these are a bit excessive, but we'll make it there.
I mean, my mind looking at that just immediately goes to just sexual selection and like
Mm,
if you want to make like a particularly exaggerated structure like that, then you could just totally say that in some species that's just one of the ways that probably the females, because we've got the male brooding thing going on.
yep.
So it could be that the dominant female just has these very like impractically large beaks and just that's
And
just a sign
goring
of like
tusks.
yeah.
Um, and I do like them having fingers and thumbs as well because if they do have these longer uh, tusks, I suppose
Mhm.
eating may be somewhat difficult. So being able to pick up their food and put it in their
Yeah.
mouths could be useful.
I feel like there is an example of something like that that I'm just forgetting of some animal that has like tusks or something that gets in the way of feeding. The only thing I can think of, and this is only kind of related, but it makes me think of slave taking ants, or they used to be
Slave
called
taking
slave
ants.
taking ants, but they're called yeah, slave taking these days is usually referred to as dulosis. But there's several different kinds of ants that have evolved to instead of producing their own workers, they abduct larvae from other ant species, and using pheromones, they basically um, indoctrinate, I guess, the larvae into thinking that this is their colony, and so they like get the workers of other species to work for them. And the slave taking ants, some species are so specialized for slave taking and rely so much on their slaves that they have lost the ability to feed themselves. So they don't have functioning mouth parts anymore. And instead, they rely on their slaves to chew up and regurgitate food directly into their open mouths. So,
That that is what that's very wasp-like behavior coming from the ants.
mm, yeah, I mean the hymenopteran tendencies run deep, but
Yep.
yeah, this is not necessarily like that at all. I'm not saying that we have slave taking crocodiles, but just the idea that the dominant female, if she's like incapable of feeding herself in some way, then maybe the males like help her out in some way.
That could be an interesting direction. I was also thinking of like elephants, I suppose, using their uh, trunks to feed themselves. I mean, I imagine it would be quite difficult to get leaves and things to their mouth parts due to tusks, especially for like bush elephants, if it
Mm,
wasn't for their trunks.
yeah,
Um, but they don't walk on their trunks, so it's not a
no,
perfect allegory there. But we've got this here. I mean, I think one that would be interesting to look at would be the more like Graysile group,
mhm,
um, because yeah, we've got herbivores coming out of there, and they're going to be the more. I think we're going to have some bipedal herbivores, um, and we're also going to have those two carnivorous groups. One of which is going to be the larger group. So that may be a way to look at, or we could look at all of the diversity for those parrotfish ones. Because early
mm,
on, we're going to have a group that goes towards durophagy and
yes.
osteophagy, and then another group that, I mean, the more varied group probably that's going to be more herbivorous.
Mhm. I do think
That could
that's
be
a
an
fun
interesting
bit of
one.
like yeah, you've got the group that is like the archetypically herbivorous group. Like
Hmm.
it would be kind of like if there were like a handful of species of like antelope or something that were carnivorous and like scavenged on meat and things. It's just kind of a nice way of a little like twist on their classic feeding behavior.
Yes. All right. So what am I working with here? Watercolors probably isn't the best for this, I don't think. All right,
Yes,
so
Jake, I do
for
have a working camera this week, but probably, given how well it's been behaving, by the next time we stream, it'll stop working again. So,
this stream has been blessed with a good camera. Here we go. All right, so we can start with the green griffins. All right, and I can grab duplicate. All right. There we go. So we got this guy. Okay, so for the ones that are the duraphages, I guess how tall are they right now? How big are these ones? Oh, they're all they're all still quite small.
yes.
So we got about, I don't know, 40, 50 centimeters tall at this point in time.
I mean, that's like, generally speaking, we'd expect duraphages to be quite small because, like, scavenging, generally speaking, is not particularly energy efficient. Like, there are relatively few animals that are like purely scavengers, at least beyond a certain size. You do have things like carrion beetles, which are pretty much, as far as I'm aware, take up pretty much all of their nutrition through scavenging. But something like a hyena is still doing a
Hmm.
fair bit of active predation on the side. So
Yeah.
there's really, we would expect if something was like specialized just for eating, like osteophagy specifically, if it's just literally eating bones and other meat that it can scavenge from carcasses, then it probably isn't going to be too big. But if it moves into other feeding behaviors, then it could potentially get larger. The exception to that is if the animal is if it can fly, or if it has
Mm.
some other way of moving very large distances in search of food, then so something like a vulture is fairly large for a like purely scavenging animal. Um,
Okay. So that we can we because this one is, yeah, so we can keep it like this small size, or I mean some of them could be smaller.
sure.
Um though, I mean at this point in time, if they are going to be eating a lot of bones and things, then um I mean we don't have anything right now that has particularly big bones, but we'd want their mouth parts to be large enough at least to like crack
Mhm.
a decent
Yeah.
amount of bones open, so they can't get too small. Um, and then I was also thinking for Duraphage because there are going to be like hard shelled, um, like marine creatures, or in fresh and salt
Yes.
water. Uh, those creatures may be slightly bigger.
Mm.
Um, but I think overall, them probably keeping this size of being like 40 to 50, yeah, of not getting like kind of bigger than about 50
Mhm.
centimeters tall at the shoulder may be useful.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm
and
reminded of there's an animal in After Man. Um, I think it's called the Ghole, Ghole, and it's a mongoose, I think, that has specifically adapted for scavenging and osteophagy. Did I get that right? Um, that's not the right picture. That's from Man After Man. But yeah,
oh,
there
here
we
we go.
go. Yeah. So they've got these really big rounded teeth that are specifically designed for cracking open bones.
Okay, there we go. See, but then I would struggle with the size of their faces and some of the sizes of these bones.
Hmm.
So I would want ones. Let's have some
I think we
bigger
can
faces.
afford to get, yeah, larger heads.
Yeah, so they can afford to get larger heads. I guess they'd start to look a little puggish.
Hmm.
Oh, it's Jake.
Yeah,
Hey,
if
Jake.
short, yeah, short, powerful, crushing jaws.
Yeah.
Um, so something I'm imagining something kind of like a short-faced Erythrosuchus. And while we're on the topic of gyrophagy, I have to give a shout out to one of my favorite marine reptiles of all time, Globidens, which is a genus of mosasaur that adapted for eating aquatic, hard-shelled like mollusks, and
Ooh.
clams and things.
And
It's
what was?
Globidens.
Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, look at those
Yeah,
teeth.
so yeah, they're really rounded. I mean, globidens literally means globe-shaped teeth, and yeah, that's why.
And what was the short-faced? Was
Oh
it
yeah,
Pseudosuchian?
Erythrosuchus. So Erytho, suchus.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's got this ridiculously like cartoonishly big head.
it
Um,
does.
so if we took that and kind of squashed the head, um, in the anterior posterior direction, so it was like, yeah, if it had these really short, powerful, crushing jaws, then that would make quite an effective Gyrophagus scavenger.
I like that a lot. All right, so very quickly. Just a cartoonishly big head. Let me.
Hmm.
I don't know if this caused you to have the issue last time. We will find out. All right, so that. Sorry, I just need to
Hmm.
add. Yeah, because I got a bunch of stuff on the iPad that's for the next episode, and that doesn't need to end up in a stream. They are huge. Like the heads are just
Yeah,
kind of ridiculous.
yeah, they have one of the largest head to body size ratios of any terrestrial vertebrate, and like these are big animals as well. These are like several meters long.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Triassic was a crazy time.
And we're going to make this one fluffy. All right, so then we've got.
Mm. I will say, so I have an irrational love of having animals that have any kind of pelage, if they have fur or feathers or what have you, keeping the face bald. For whatever reason, I just really like that aesthetic, and I very often justify it in like scavenging animals by saying that when they stick their heads into a carcass, they don't want the blood and the guts to kind of get stuck around their face.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
but because that, at least for a time, was thought to be why vultures are bald headed, but it turns out that probably has more to do with temperature regulation than anything else. So it's definitely not
Mm.
a mandatory thing, but it's something that I am prone to.
They have like no necks.
Yes, just pure muscle to support such a big, heavy head. Yes, very much the opposite of Cotylorhynchus. Cotylorhynchus is famous for having this really stupid looking, like, tiny head just sort of perched on top.
Oh
And it
yeah, it's
just
like the big
looks.
barrel one with the little head.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right, so then I can go up there. All right, that'll do for now. And then, of course, they have
Hmm.
scales.
And then
And they're going to
potentially
be a little...
along the fringes of the beak, like the edges could be kind of have a, how do you describe that pattern of like I feel like there's a term for what I'm thinking of, but like little sort of a pattern of semicircular like bumps, I guess, along the edge of the frill, kind of to
Oh,
mimic teeth, but not exactly teeth, and they would be like these broad, sort of rounded nodules that help to grip onto and like exert force, which would be good for breaking things open.
there we go. Okay. Yeah, tried to get the little nodules in there. I mean, they're going to have teeth in here too, so they can have little rounded teeth.
Mm.
All right, I can work on those later. So now, rounded nodules on teeth, that is very important so that they can crush things.
Yes.
They'd have very big heads, no necks. Yeah, shorter tails. And one question. Um, I think it'd be fun if these ones were also like more armored.
Mm.
Because they are going to be scavengers. I'm thinking that they are largely going to be um what like yeah, like I don't know. Maybe at the largest like a boar or something like that for their
Mhm.
sizing. Uh Probably I mean their jaws would be a decent defense. I don't think a predator would want to get on the bad side of those. Um, though I'm also thinking, they could uh, do with some more armor. I think this one has
Mm.
yes, this one has it on the shoulder.
So they're not going to be particularly fast.
I wasn't imagining that.
Yeah, if they're more sort of, I mean, yeah, Durophagy, as I say, not a particularly energy efficient diet, and
Yeah,
especially
that,
if this thing is eating any wood or like tough plant tissues as well, then there's only going to be like so much energy you're getting out of that. So you're probably going to end up being quite slow. So,
yeah.
and I mean, in general, crocodilians seem to be pretty keen on armor, just with the osteoderms they have. It seems like they can evolve armor pretty easily, whereas mammals, for with the exception of things like
Those
armadillos and
shrews.
pangolins,
Aren't
shrews.
there like the spiny mice? Or like
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I think there's some
There is.
shrews that also do. I mean, shrews are weird.
Shrews are very weird. Have you seen a what the skull of the common shrew looks like? It looks like something out of a sci-fi alien horror movie. Yeah, it looks just like a
Oh
cute
my
little mouse,
goodness.
right? Nope. Look at this thing.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
no, you could definitely
yeah.
make straight up of the alien movies.
And they've got iron in their teeth um,
Oh, that's why they're
to
dark.
reinforce. Yeah, they one side of the tooth is reinforced with iron, which means the back side of the tooth wears down faster than the front side, which acts to keep them constantly like self-sharpening.
Okay. Just for taste, this one's gonna have the fur and stuff starting after. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got this more. The head still gets me. I think I'm gonna have to work on the head, but like it is. I could change the dimensions of it a little bit, but it is a big head. It
Yeah.
just looks weird.
Mm.
All right, and then one thing we do have to talk about with these ones um, is their whatchamacallit? Their whatchamacallit. Their one is their breeding habits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also interested in whether or not these burrow. I think
Mm-hmm.
uh, like do they create dens and those sorts of things? And are these ones more monogamous or are they um, going to be one of the species that has bull or cow dominance?
Mm. Interesting. Um, so we've established that the climate is fairly moist at this point, so they're not living in a
Yes.
particularly like arid environment.
Yeah, they're not living in an arid environment at the moment.
Because yeah, one of the things that sort of helps to that can sort of drive the evolution of monogamy is difficulty in dispersal. If like it is just not practical to travel, very large distances looking for mates, then
Mm,
if you find one mate, you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to stick with this one.
right.
But if that's not the case, then maybe these do have more, either serial monogamy or promiscuity or something like that.
Yeah, because I think serial monogamy is kind of the base for them.
Mhm.
But who is going to be competing for attention?
Mm.
That's what we want to figure out. I think we may set it for the green griffins as a whole. And they are going to be the major herbivorous group. So we may just do it just because it is the novel thing about this group is that I would argue that we can make them have um, like cow dominance. So they're the ones who have either the bigger size or the display and stuff like that to get
Mhm.
the attention of the bulls.
Sure.
For these ones just as a whole, I think that may be. Yeah, let's do that over here.
Mm. And if they are burrowers, or if they have, if they build sort of dens, that does sort of force them to stick to a single territory.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could imagine that the dominant females are the ones they establish territories and defend them, whereas the males kind of are transient and wander between territories to find the females.
Mm-hmm. All right, so they are going to be defending territories. Oh yeah, and we also have that they are going to be burrowing.
Hmm. So just doing a bit of looking, because I was thinking about lecking,
Mm.
which is where there's a specific timed event where all of the males come out and do a put on their mating displays all at the same time, usually in a single area, and the females visit the lek, and because all the males are gathered in one place, they can pick whichever male they think is most impressive. Um, and it's a pretty common mating behavior in lots of different groups. But I'm just looking up now, and I'm not sure there are actually any known examples of female leks
Well,
where you have large groups of females where the males choose the female.
but we could have at an intersection of these territories, or maybe the territories intersect at some sort of important but difficult to defend resource, like a lake or something like that, or yeah, I don't know, some other space. Um, the cows could all gather there from their territory and have a lek where then the nearby bulls all come to it. I mean, we do have instances where there is male brooding and where the female individuals of those species are dominant. They do take on these kinds of behaviors and displays and things. So I don't think that would be. And we could also see these little boar-sized things engaging in some sort of display. Oh, because what do just as a because we're using pigs as an example, they like to roll. Well, yeah, I mean, I think they like to roll, but we have images of pigs and boars and things rolling around. We already have the male, the bulls of the species having these sort of ermine brooding pouches. The cows could have some sort of color for their filaments or fibers on their undersides that if they're rolling, when they're no, their lecking could be rolling, and when they roll, they show their undersides, and their undersides could have bright plumage.
Mm. Interesting.
So that could be something that they do. But I'm also wondering what other kinds. I mean, it could be something as simple as, they're big and they just kind of try to intimidate the other cows. Though lecking is usually like they're doing like a dance or something, right?
There's often like some sort of like specific display that they're doing. Sometimes fights, things like antelope or other bovids and things. There'll be rutting involved. The males will like fight with one another. But the exact like mechanism of the display is kind of arbitrary in a lot of cases. So something like if we say that they have colorful undersides, that could be you if you are too overtly colorful, then that makes it very easy for predators to spot you. And so if you kind of hide your colorful parts by having them be underneath you, and only when you roll over, it's like the fire-bellied toad does that. I think it's got a green, like a mottled green back, and then its underside is red. I think I'm remembering that correctly.
Yes, you
Yeah,
are.
there we go.
And this works with these ones as well because these are the green griffins. They, at least, so they can have, so they have their green colored osteoderms that are on top. I think the sort of typical one for this has kind of like a red brown coat. I mean, these ones could have more of a gray coat, more of a gray brown coat, something that's even more, I don't know, cryptic maybe. And then, their undersides can have this sort of brighter red color or yellow to them.
Mm.
I like
And
that.
that could be the sort of standard way it's done in most species. But then you have the option of saying that in some species, just due to Fisherian runaway, you get the because in something like a peacock, which is very
They could
famously
look like little brooms trailing behind them.
that's one way of conceptualizing it because the peacock's tail famously is like a pretty maladaptive trait. Like it is a proper, it like gets in the way and makes them more visible and vulnerable to predators. But that's kind of the appeal in a sense, because from the peahen's perspective, it's like, oh well, this male has survived to adulthood with this huge and very obvious handicap. That must mean that he's a really, really fit mate. So you could have some of these species that take the coloration and take the displays to greater extremes so that they're not as cryptic and they are more obviously colorful in a way that makes them more visible and more vulnerable. So basically, yeah, you could just get a variety of different color patterns and a variety of different ways that they're used in mating displays.
Okay, so some of that's going to get unreasonable. And if we go under there, what was the toad had a very striking orange color under there. And that'll work if we've got, let's go, kind of a, yeah, just make it kind of, I'll make it more gray, I suppose. Maybe I'll give it a bit of a cooler gray and then go in there and hit it with some kind of a dappled green color for its scales, because they don't, and especially because in the heraldry as well, the green doesn't necessarily, like, none of the colors refer to like something specific. I mean, there are in some heraldry like more specific names for certain tinctures, but
what is a tincture in this context exactly?
I think tincture just refers to the it just refers to the specific. The tincture is the term in heraldry for the colors of the shields. And each of the colors, like yellow, isn't referred to as a yellow. It's referred to with a specific heraldic term. And yellow is one of the metallics, so it's just, right? Like just gold. And I think they're introduced into English through the Normans, so there's some franglais going on there. Oh, supernatural ecology. Hello. Welcome to the show. And we'll figure out what their skin color is going to be. At some other point. All right, so we've got this bright orange plumage beneath, which is excellent. Really liking that. And they can roll over and they can kind of show that while they are lecking. And they'll have all sorts of patterns and things under there. And I'm sure when the humans arrive, they won't do anything to harm these critters or their pretty plumage.
Well, I mean, if these are, scavengers, and if they've got adaptations specifically to feed on like bones and like pick off any bit of meat you can get out of a carcass, then these might be kind of pests. You know, they might show up and try and raid the humans' meat stores, and show up and dig through the refuse piles, etc.
Well, I'm thinking some of these could get smaller, and so because I did like the idea of all the small things, being that are kind of around, being largely descended from the gryphons, right? So we have
Mhm.
the rose gryphons being, and I guess the ones that are insectivorous and kind of filling the role of many reptiles and lizards and things, um, being from the Rhynchosaur group. But we could have small groups of scavenging animals coming from this group, uh, if they get
Mm.
smaller, just kind of
Yeah.
roaming around.
Mhm.
Because yeah,
Like you have a broadly similar to the distinction between like rodents and tree shrews,
hmm
both pretty small things that look broadly similar but come from very different ancestors.
wonderful. All right. Uh, yeah, I don't know what color their skin is kind of going to be. Let's just do this one for now, and I'll come back to it later.
Mm. Yeah, doesn't need to be. I mean, if they're using their undersides for display, then there's that's going to be the colorful bit. So there's not much need to um, give any particularly remarkable coloration to any other part of the body. So
Yeah.
it can be comparatively drab.
hmm I'll need to work on the head a little bit, but I can get back to that later. So we've got, for the 75 to 50 million years, we've got these durophages, and then we also have the herbivorous group, and I suppose a bunch of them are just going to look like this. Um, but there are going to be more forms as well.
Mm.
Um, this is when we have, I guess the metamorphora haven't. Oh yeah, so I guess some of the metamorphora would have been seeded already, and they've started to spread. So these are the ones that are going to be feeding on this new, um, kind of plant that is starting to kind of get a foothold. Um, but a lot of it would tend to be more, again, like herbaceous. So it's going to be a lot of the shorter plants. And at this point, a lot of shrubs that they're going to be
Mm.
looking at. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Uh, and I do like them having a more robust look to them. Um,
I was going to ask if we are going to have any um, cursorial forms for this group. Are we going to have like the equivalent of like antelope or gazelle or very like lean, fast running ones, or are we going to
we could.
more? Because if we wanted to stick with relatively robust forms, then maybe armor is just the more popular defense for this group, and so
That's true.
you
We
could
also
end up with
have,
the
what is it? I did do. Where is he? She. Here we go. So this one was one of the ideas for one of the parrot face beak ones, and this one,
Mhm.
I don't know, kinda,
Yeah.
kind of giving that. I mean, they're probably, yeah, they're bigger than those ones. I don't know. This one's also, Yeah, so this one's bigger. I mean, it does look kind of cursorial, though. I guess I'm getting more. What's that group of dinosaurs? I am.
Iguanodonts.
Yes, giving me
Yeah.
more iguanodont, perhaps. There we go.
How big are
So
we picturing this thing?
I wasn't bigger than a person.
Ah.
So we could move it in that way to get there.
But yeah, I mean that based on that design, it looks like it would be capable of some degree of speed. It could definitely,
Hmm.
run out of the way of something that was trying to attack it.
Yeah. So yeah, that could be more of a cursorial thing. It's not as heavily armored. We could leave um, room for armored ones because part of our uh, discussion around um, oh, there we go. From part of the discussion with the cladogram, we also had um, wood-eating ones. And
Mm.
I think what could be interesting is because we do some of these are eating the equivalent of like mosses and lichens and these kinds of things off of not just rocks, I suppose, but also off of um, trees and things. So, if they do have these like scraping jaws, then we could get something where they're eating, and the parrotfish, of course, are eating parts of coral as they're eating algae and things off of
Mhm.
it to produce sand, um, which is fun. Uh, so these ones we could have a more heavily armored group that is also like eating wood or something like that. Um, though I'm not sure how large those would be as well. I guess
Mm.
that's how. And yeah, how large do like wood-eating creatures get? And I don't think because
E-
I'm thinking beavers, but I don't beavers kind of beavers eat wood.
Yeah,
Yes,
beavers are one of
but they're eating a
the
lot of things. They're also
yeah
eating.
they have eat like mixed vegetation along with wood.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say a beaver is like on the upper size end. Like the classic example of something that is almost purely xylophagous is termites,
Mm.
which obviously are nowhere near that big. But yeah, I imagine that it would be like I don't think they would be like purely wood eaters. I think they would be
Yeah.
happy to eat most other kinds of vegetation as well. So I would say, something up to the size of a beaver is probably doable.
Okay. So then let's have another. We can have another group coming off of this that is going to be more focused on that. So they're going to be eating wood and also mixed vegetation. And if they're doing that, then they'd probably be smaller than. Um, how big is a beaver? This is an important question.
Um, it is in the top five largest rodents. I know
Oh,
that much.
there were giant beavers.
Yes. I can never remember what they're called, but yeah, like Mega Castoridae or something. It's not Paleocastor, that's another one. Castoroides. That's the one.
Asteroides. Let's go. Okay. What do people. Uh, yeah, I want to know what their height is at the shoulder, though. That's the. Okay, 90 kilograms. That's quite big. It does not describe. It describes their length.
Hmm.
Oh, so 90 to 100. All right, let's go back to beavers. Let's see what the beavers. Okay. And I guess description is probably a shoulder height of 30 to 60 centimeters. Oh, 30
Second
to
largest
60
rodent.
centimeters. And they weigh 30 kilograms, but can be as heavy as 50. So if we take the 50 and the 60, okay, so maybe they can get to a meter. The giant ones could be around a meter at the shoulder
Hmm.
if they are
And
double to, you know, 3/4 the size. Okay.
mhm. And oddly enough, beavers also reinforce at least their front teeth with iron in the same way as the shrew, for the same reason,
Okay.
to keep them sharp.
I'm okay. And if some of these species start to do that, oh, clearly was not minding my layers, but I also don't want to do that because I want to do that. So I will deal with that later. So these ones could be a lowrider too. So then these ones could be have a variation in size from what do we got? Like yeah, so you could have what was it, 40 centimeters at the shoulder?
Something like that.
All right, let's to about a meter at the shoulder. And they can't, so these could be, and you're mentioning the being heavily armored.
Because, yeah, wood, very low density in terms of nutrition. And so you're really not going to have very much energy. So they'll be very sort of um, sloth like, I guess, in terms of their metabolism.
Excellent. And then I think iron teeth would be cool. That way they could have black beaks or reddish
Mm.
black beaks. Excellent. All right. And then we were also going to do the cursorial one. However, it is 11. We're about an hour in. What did you miss? Belly displays. That is what you missed.
Rolling legs.
Rolling Lex. Well, I think a certain subset of the world building scene has Lex on the mind because of the dragons over in Pillar World.
Ah,
Yeah. Let's have our break and then reconvene and finalize the green dragons before we move on to the 10A or brown, not dragons, sorry.
griffins.
The Ver Griffins before turning to the 10A or Tawny Griffins. And as always, we're going to spend this time to praise the sun, the green dragon whose body is the earth and whose tail is the sun above our heads. And we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes or so.
Very good.
All right, and I am back. Everyone worshiping the sun. Oh, staring directly in the sun to show your devotion. Yes, you may give up your human sight in favor of the divine sight. Right, Supcram has the right idea. Visions in exchange for your vision. And Bib is back
Yes.
as well.
Hello.
Just to remember,
So,
well,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna have a reminder to like and subscribe. If you haven't already, you can turn on the bell for notifications. And, hyping and leaving a comment helps as well. Um, you can also support Lands Unknown or Biblaridion through Patreon in the description. And
Thank you very much.
no problem.
Um, yeah, I was just going to say, while I was making tea, just a couple of thoughts occurred to me. Before we move on from the orange pouched male lecking ones, I was thinking more about borrowing. And
Mm,
if we say that borrowing is a fairly basal trait in this group, if this happens like quite early on in their history, then I'm just thinking there are two uh two adaptations that are kind of correlated with borrowing, one of which is eusociality or just cooperative breeding in general.
mm.
So I think we talked about maybe having some potentially eusocial or other cooperative breeding species. So maybe this is one of the groups that manifests in.
Yep.
And the other one, yeah, depending on how far you wanted to go, burrowing is also correlated with limblessness. So if we wanted to have any limbless crocodiles, um, that could potentially be one of the groups to do it in.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the durophages may be getting their own further branches. Um, okay. Yeah, we'll probably have to talk more about the use social one. Uh, maybe they can be limbless and eusocial with cooperative breeding.
Yeah,
Um,
that's it. That's it. Have I ever seen a limbless eusocial animal? I'm not sure I have. That's quite cool.
so that could be
I
fun.
might do something with that. I have plans for a another eusocial thing on Tira, but I will not divulge that just yet.
Yeah, you gotta leave something for the next release, the next
Mm.
video.
I have a whole series planned about eusociality because it goes very deep.
For these ones, the ones that eat wood and mixed vegetation, um, for this period, I mean, we could have some that become bigger that more focus on that mixed vegetation bit, especially
Yeah.
as the metamorphora become more uh, predominant. But I was thinking of, like we were talking about the heavy armor. I was thinking of something like a Semasuchus or
Hmm.
um what was it, like Dermatasuchus? It's the one that has like these huge um things coming off it. What is
Um, I feel like I should know what you mean.
Desmatasuchus, maybe? Yeah, there we go.
Oh yes, it's one of the itosaurs. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the itosaurs. Oh, doesn't have a
Yeah,
not
order Itosauria.
order Itosauria. There we go. Yes.
Yeah,
So yeah,
these
like
things.
these guys because they look pretty
Mhm.
neat. They've got a lot of heavy armor. Um,
Yeah.
the Vental armor is interesting. I'm not
Hmm.
sure. I mean, we could work in some ventral armor. Um, I don't think necessarily that would get in the way of having a brood pouch.
Could have an armored brood pouch.
Armored brood pouch. There we go.
Mm. Mm. I'm trying now to envisage how, like, essentially the equivalent of a turtle shell, but with a built-in pouch. Like, trying to think of how that would fit together.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna be because what it looks like for the itosaurs is that they have like
Mm.
separate plates.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
multiple like bands of armor rather than
y-
one fused piece.
yeah. And then so these ones are going to be a little bit bigger, I suppose, that we
Mm.
imagined. If I take, there we go.
Because the Metamorphora have like spiky bits, right?
Yes, they often do have spiky bits.
Mm. So, and the leaves are relatively small.
Not all of them, but a lot of them, have these smaller whorls. They can get longer.
Mm.
And I am so in the next video that's coming out is about um the northern lowland jungles, and then after that, the guild's choice was just a whole thing on flora. So I'm going to take some time
Oh,
to outline more kinds of flora. We do have more flora coming out for the next video because in the first one there was just one. In this one, there's going to be 4 or 5, I guess. Um, so, and then the video after that, there's going to be a lot more flora. Some of the flora does have longer leaves, um, and the flora, for example, like for the where was it? Let's go to the gallery. For I swear I had a. Oh, here we go. Like for here, right? So we could have
mhm.
be, based on based on the soil and based on the available moisture, you could have small whorls, and those small whorls are what the shrubs and the trees make, or the whorls can have longer leaves.
Mhm.
Um, so we can have a variety of leaf length.
Sure. Okay. Because yeah, I was just imagining some big browsing herbivore that's just sort of indiscriminately gorging on the treetops and just taking big bites out of the ends of the branches and, you know, taking big mouthfuls of not only the leaves but also the little spiky bits and other twigs and things, and it's just
Yes,
smashing its way through the treetops.
I very much like that. I think that is good.
Sort of like broadly similar to like a giant ground sloth, maybe.
We can definitely get a big one like that for sure.
Mhm.
Maybe want a bigger brush. I don't know why it's doing.
In fact, that's actually. Let me just
But
look
they do
something
have
up
all sorts of.
quickly.
I do think prickles are my uh, prickles and spines and thorns and stuff like that are all something I'm excited about for Dove. And then we're going to have quite extensive armor on here. And it has armor along its tail, but then we could also have ventral tail armor. And we can have armor along the brood pouch as well. So
So I just tried and didn't have very much success in looking up things about the basal metabolism of extant crocodilians, because the crocodilians that we have retained are still predominantly ectothermic, so they rely on the environment to regulate their body temperature. But that's definitely something that could change. You know,
oh
these
yeah.
animals can totally develop mesothermic or endothermic mechanisms as they evolve, but it is we kind of have freedom to choose how active they are in terms of how what their sort of base metabolic rate is, because something like xenothrans, the sloths, anteaters, and armadillos,
Mm-hmm.
for reasons that I still don't actually know, they just have very low metabolic rates in terms of mammals, and
Oh,
hence they tend to be very slow and very sluggish, and they can only really sustain uh, periods of heavy activity for a relatively short time. So perhaps some of these early suca forms have a kind of similar disposition, especially some of these large, like folivorous herbivores and these durophages that have inherently very energy inefficient diets.
yeah.
So they might be just very sluggish. Um, and it will only be relatively later on that some of the more active, fast running cursorial forms come about that have more efficient means of thermoregulation and can sustain these periods of high activity.
All right, that sounds good. And then, so we can erase in here. And then we've got from Soup Crime, slow metabolism of modern crocs derived from the condition of their ancestors being more active. I mean, that could very well be the
Mm.
case.
I seem to remember reading at some point that this was one of the proposed ideas for why crocodilians survived the KPG extinction, just because their low metabolism means that they just don't need as much food. And I'm sure maybe that played a part. Um, it's hard to say.
And we could have armor and there we go. Oh, I didn't mean to make him that small. Just sort of happened like that. Oh no.
Whoa.
There we go. Now we have our heavily armored Griffin, and I want... Because if they're heavily armored, they could have some brighter scale coloring. I mean, I'll probably go in and make it a bit darker than this. This is pretty light.
Hmm.
I do like the idea of this, of the smaller version of these being kind of rodent adjacent, and all of the rodent kind of critters are just covered in armor. Trying to deal with a infestation when all the things that you're trying to deal with are heavily armored, I think is a very funny problem to have. And these ones are not going to have, these ones can have the fuzzy heads. Got that back there. Oh, yep. And then these ones are going to have black beaks, I guess, or irony colored beaks. Maybe just at the tips.
Yeah.
That is a very aggressive eye color. That was not what I meant to do. All right. So these ones are going to be eating like wood and mixed vegetation and those kinds of things. Both of these look very, very boxy. You have returned to the Dubai chocolate monotreme. Yes. Oh, I guess because they're pistachio. Yeah. The pistachio colored. And yeah, we could have smaller ones as well. And I like the idea because I'm talking about the way that these the Dovians would kind of create their own taxonomy. It's like, well, they're all small, and maybe over time, the ones that are smaller diverge from those that are larger in a way where What is that? Studio pen? My old friend. I'll probably give these ones slightly bigger necks and more of a own shape body rather than being as chonky as these ones, but that's okay. Always time after the stream to work on those. Yeah, welcome back, Jake. So now we can finish out these ones by making something more cursorial. Are you saying that that's something that could emerge later from this kind of base morph?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, it could happen at basically any point, but like I'm imagining, it might be something that you see in, like, you talked about the periods that we're dealing with earlier. If are these periods defined by any particular like extinction events or like ecological transitions between them?
Yeah. So ecological events, one would be the metamorphflora become the kind of dominant um, kind of flora in that second period, the 50 million year, like starting then, they kind of become the more
Hmm.
dominant form of flora. They're able to deal with the cooling temperatures and um, the decreased amount of precipitation, able to kind of keep moisture locked in them better.
Hmm.
Um, so, since these ones may be more suited to eating the metamorphflora, when those kind of explode, that's when we start getting more of
Yeah,
these forms.
yeah, that could be the
Um,
first, or like what a major radiation of these much larger versions of these animals that have been around for a while, but mostly relatively inconspicuous wood eaters now sort of radiate out into all of these more typical feeding behaviors and grow much bigger and more prominent. Um, whereas the cursorial ones, um, it could be that they just sort of gradually supplant the older generation of more like plodding, more slow
mhm,
moving, less active ones. Or it could be that one of the periods, the transition between periods, some critical point happens where either there's like a new generation of predators that are like fast running predators, and so other slower herbivores now just have a disadvantage, and so the cursorial ones sort of have the edge.
mhm.
Um,
Well, what I was thinking is that if we turn off that group and go back to, so these ones, the kind of Tene Griffins, they are the more gracile ones, and
mhm.
their beaks, um, their pseudo beaks are on the bottom are like fused bone. We talked about them being a group of herbivores that were, yeah, they're the more bipedal ones and whatnot. And I think, I guess between the 50 and 25 million year mark, they were in more arid regions,
Mhm.
which could be interesting. Because of their beak structure, these could be the ones earlier on that adapt to the current, like the local flora that is more prominent in that 75 to 50 million year mark. So these could be the more cursorial herbivores
Mhm.
that, as things change, get pushed out, and then eventually some of their descendants in the 25 to 0 million year mark start being integrated back into more of the more ecosystems.
Mhm.
That could work.
Mhm.
So it is the cursorial uh, veil griffins, les griffons veil. Um, they could uh, they could emerge after these ones sort of start getting displaced by
Sure.
metamorphflora becoming the more
Mhm.
prominent flora.
Sure.
Okay. And with that, let's work on these ones for the rest of the time, because these are going to be, I guess, a group of herbivores and then the major group of carnivores.
Mhm.
And hello, Goody Rictus. So I'm going to.
Good Rictus escalensis. That sounds like a real species.
We can get rid of that and that.
A carboniferous tenacanthiform. Interesting.
So we've been talking about the more herbivorous form, something more cursorial.
Mm.
Yeah, something more cursorial, something more herbivorous. Probably needs a longer neck. I think I have a way. Oh, oops. Always check your layers, folks. All right, so moving this one down here, we can now make it smaller to kind of fit in with this kind of stuff. Are there advantages to, I guess, a cursorial herbivore having such a long tail?
Well, see, this is one of the differences between mammals and most kinds of reptiles, to use a very imprecise term. But I'm not great at anatomy, so I'm probably going to get some of the details of this wrong. But basically, the muscles that attach the thighs to the skeleton, so the sort of anchor points that contract when the animal runs,
Mm-hmm.
in the most older groups of reptiles, including things like archosaurs, pseudotsuchians, dinosaurs, birds, etc. Actually, I'm not 100% sure about birds, but the point is that the muscles are anchored in the tail. So the tail in these animals is usually quite thick,
Uh-huh.
because it's the attachment site of the muscles. Whereas in mammals, the muscles have been kind of rearranged and now attached to the pelvis. And so because of that, in mammals, the tail is usually much less prominent. Um, so assuming that these suicorforms are going to keep the ancestral condition, then they probably will retain a relatively thick, sort of stout tail. How long it needs to be, I don't know, but you could end up with some sort of quite short but sort of
Stubby tail.
conical. Yeah,
Okay, just to see what that would look
yeah,
like. Just I don't know if that's
yeah,
the best. Yeah, yeah. Just having like a little stubby thick tail where the muscles sort of connect.
yeah.
That is definitely amusing. I don't know if I like this one better or if I like that one better.
Hmm.
Okay. And I gave
Because I am surprised by um how long and how thick and heavy a lot of like archosaur tails are. If you look at something like Thassolasuchus or these other like large, um, very large predatory archosaurs, like their tail is like the length of the entire rest of the body, and it's not
mm-hmm.
really doing anything. So I don't know. It seems to me like one of those things that you would expect to, you know, become vestigial at some point, but it seems to be maintained for whatever reason. So
I mean, they can have whip-like tails, though. I mean, if did their, I mean, I guess we would know whether their tails were kind of like the tails of some contemporary lizards, where they pop off if they are bitten. Because I'm just thinking for like if you are like a cursorial um, herbivore and you're running away from something, if it can grab onto your tail,
Hmm.
that would be a pretty bad day.
Yeah,
If it doesn't
I
just
don't.
pop off.
Yeah, I don't think we have any evidence of tail autotomy
Yeah.
outside of certain groups of lizards. I suspect that, for such a large structure, a large heavy structure like that, it's going to take a lot of energy to regrow.
Yeah.
Um, so um, tail, tail could just idea that just pops into my head could potentially be used as like a fat reserve uh, in
That
some
too, yeah.
groups. In some of the like arid species um, that live out in the more arid environments. Maybe they could have these sort of thickened, broad, sort of fat tails.
Oh, like a sheep.
Hmm.
Because you got certain kinds of yeah, certain kinds of sheep have a lot of fat in their tails, and that's in contemporary human cultures. The fat from the sheep's tail was kind of a prestigious fat used for cooking and adding to like I don't know kebabs and
Hmm.
things like that.
Hmm.
I don't know how much we need to change from the original morph. I'm just checking because the distance from here to here, I mean, it could just lean down a bit. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
about. Just want to make sure it can eat and drink and things like that.
Yeah, that is a useful thing to be able to do. Um, Another thing that I've never quite understood is that like I actually don't really know how much is true of this is true, but I've heard that cheetahs, the tail kind of acts as a rudder, and by swinging the tail in a certain direction, that can
Yes,
help them turn corners and things. But I'm wondering if that's the case, then why aren't there any antelope or gazelle or other animals that can run as fast and are pretty much just as maneuverable as cheetahs, and yet they don't seem to have any need for any kind of tail rudder or equivalent. So I
they
don't
do
really
have
know what's going on.
hooves. Uh, so they may be, I don't know, they're maybe the equipment that they have that they're
Mm,
just starting with.
no, I don't know, because cheetahs have they're the only big cats that don't have retractable claws. Because the claws
Mm,
are
to help them grip.
always, yeah, they're like the spikes on a track shoe that help them grip the ground. So yeah, don't know. I guess the antelope just for whatever reason, just the way their anatomy works, they just don't have as much need for like a turning mechanism. I don't know.
They're built different.
Yeah, quite literally.
Quite literally built different. Um, yeah, so the precursor.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. Soup crime is that the cats they started out with already having long tails, whereas the bovids that antelope descend from didn't, and so it was just easier to adapt a structure that already existed rather than you know develop a brand new one. So that's definitely part of it.
Maybe they can have the part of their tail closest to them can be kind of chunky, and then they can have
Mm, taper
less.
into a sort of whip-like thing.
Yeah, yeah. Rather than just dropping the tail entirely. So we can still have those fat reserves and strong muscles attaching there for running. And it seems like if we look at Galhadasuchus and stuff like that, they do have like those long tails as well. So
Yeah.
and then the other thing too is that if these ones are going to become the bipedal forms, then their tail can act as kind of a counterbalance to kind of like
Yes.
help them stand up once we get there.
Yes. Unless you, and this is not a serious suggestion, so please, please know that I am being facetious. Unless you want to do what humans did and go orthograde and just stand completely bolt upright.
Oh, yeah, no. I don't think we're going to be doing that. I think that would be very strange. And they would be like non-sapient
Yeah.
orthograde griffins being herbivorous griffins being hunted by uh Dovians would not be a good time. I think that would add too much horror into the
Mm.
a little
It's
uncanny. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like Joshua Knooper in one of his projects. He has this group of aliens that just coincidentally have evolved to look roughly humanoid.
Oh
And so
no.
when the human colonists arrive, they're like, "Oh, well, clearly these are the most advanced, intelligent species of this planet," and they start trying to, communicate with them and establish, first contact and everything. And they very slowly come to the realization, oh, these are just actually really just slow-moving, dumb herbivores that just kind of happen to look like us, and it's just very embarrassing for them.
Yeah, I do like the whip-like tail with a bit of a, and I guess, because these are eventually going to be pushed into the more arid areas, that would be good for them to have fat
Mm.
reserves in their tails, just kind of as an outset.
Yeah. And longer tails would also help to radiate away excess body heat. And you could even
Yeah.
have like
They could have
little
fans and things
veins or
eventually.
yeah, little sails or crests or things along the tail to help disperse the heat.
That would be good. All right, so we're going to have a cursorial herbivore. And now we can start talking about the carnivorous ones. Making these so long. All right. I mean, I could always just turn the screen sideways, but so we had a couple ideas for the carnivorous animals. Um, from the last, where's the cladogram? Here we go. There were two options that we were talking about. One was a group that has more developed forelimbs for catching prey,
Mm-hmm.
and another that has kind of like more of a, I guess, like a hooked jaw, but also more powerful jaws. And this is
Yeah.
also thinking about the ones with the very robust heads. Um, like the pseudosuchians that kind of look like T-Rex, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. So with the arboreal ones that later come down from the trees and develop the knuckle walking,
Yes.
I assume the knuckle walking is they want to protect their claws when they're running, which implies that they're using their claws to hunt, right?
They could, yeah, yeah. They could totally use their claws for
Mhm.
hunting. I'm thinking that like they're coming down with these arboreal hands that are made for grasping,
Mhm.
and I don't know how they would change those for walking on. I mean, they could. I guess they could become plantigrade. Um, but if we want them chasing things, being plantigrade isn't necessarily the best. Though I assume bears are plantigrade and they can move at a pretty quick clip.
I mean, I think the if these are if these are adapting for cursoriality
Mm-hmm.
from a starting position of knuckle walking,
Yeah.
then I can imagine the knuckles just kind of adapting into sort of pseudo hooves almost, or like backward pointing. It's an interesting design challenge actually, but yeah, you could like if the joints along the digits kind of truncate, then you would eventually end up with just a sort of pseudo digitigrade, just with the tips of the digits sort of angled backwards a little bit.
Yeah. I suppose. I mean, you could give them just a hoof and then they have two thumbs.
Hmm.
So they, have the hoof made out of the three digits and then have
Yeah.
their two
Uh,
thumbs to eat and things. What was I looking up? I don't remember what it's called. You know what? I think next. There we go. It's that one. That's the one I wanted.
uh,
Um, there we go. Presto Day.
mhm.
So this is. I'm thinking we could have some with some like quite, um, larger heads with these developed jaws and being able to
Yeah.
catch prey with their jaws.
Mhm.
Um, that would be quite cool. Making them. Uh, Maybe some of them have a more hooked jaw appearance. What's we got for that? Oh, that's a big one. That's like a meter and a half at the
Mhm.
shoulder.
Yeah.
Um, what is going on there? All right. And then the question for the beak, though,
Hmm.
do we want to have like more of a hooked beak to be able to grab on to
So
various prey?
yeah, it depends what exactly these things are hunting. Are they going after like relatively small, fast things? I mean, they are cursorial, so that would kind of suggest that they're going after faster things, but not necessarily. Um, or are they like macro predators that go after like big, well-defended prey?
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, these could be the macropred. I mean, we do have these two groups, which are going to become like the major predatory groups.
Mm.
Where did that one go? I think it was under inks. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, the ones with the, I think these ones would probably be better at going after, let's say they're going after the more cursorial ones.
Hmm. So they want jaws that help them latch on to fast-moving prey, and yeah, to restrain them as much as possible. So yeah, maybe this is where the hooked beak comes in. So if they have some kind of distinct like kink in the jaw that can sort of hook around and like, oh, what am I thinking of? There's oh, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the chicks of greater honey guides, um which are vicious birds, by the way, because they are brood parasites, and so the young, um, if you look at pictures of the chicks,
Oh, did they like, oh, okay, there we go.
um, yeah, if you get a closer view of the beak, but you can kind of see it in that shot.
Oh, at the
Yeah, so
bottom too.
yeah, the young are born, so they're brood parasites. So the adults lay their eggs in the nests of other birds, and then the babies, when they hatch out, their very first instinct upon hatching out of their egg is to immediately thrash around and bite everything in in their immediate vicinity to break open the other eggs in the nest and kill all of the other young, so that they are the only ones left, and therefore the only ones that get any kind of provisioning by their um, surrogate parents. So vicious animals. But the chicks, to help break open the eggs around them, they have these little extensions of their beak that looks like little like ice picks, um, specifically designed for like puncturing other eggs. Very wicked animals.
All right, so getting more of a hook in the beak.
Yeah.
And then the lower beak would be hooked in as well. It's just tucked up under the other beak.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, the lower beak is hooked up under it. All right, and then I'll go in there and double check and work on the um, various things after this. Like having these powerful back legs as well
Mm.
may help for some bipedalism. Yeah, some bipedal predators we can see, rather than just drawing these ones from scratch every time. Let's go to pens. Way too big. Okay. And we have, yeah, hooked beak. And then I think the last thing we'd want to sort out is for the other group of carnivores that have the more developed forelimbs. Silhouette of the guy there is Jack Horner. Oh, yeah. That guy. Yes. I don't know. I think it's what's the name of the paleontologist from Jurassic Park, the first one?
Oh, I want to say Sam Neill, but that's the actor, not the character. Alan Grant.
Alan Grant. So that is who I consistently think it is. If they have that hat on and they're beside a dinosaur, and it's like, oh yes, Alan Grant for scale. Especially if they put him in a fedora. So they're gonna have their hooked beaks, like honey guides. And yeah, they're grabbing prey that is going to be running away from them. And I guess the other group of carnivores, we have a lot of armored herbivores. So if this group, when I work on a bit more, are going to have like more like powerful legs for like running and chasing after the more gracile creatures that they're somewhat related to, maybe some of these are smaller and they're chasing after the rose gryphons, the kind of rodent-esque ones that are on the ground. The ones that have the more developed forelimbs could be restraining the armored ones.
Yeah, I'm wondering. So this is quite an extreme idea. So I don't think this needs to happen, but I'm just trying to think of like specific predatory adaptations to deal with armor. And really, there aren't too many examples that I can think of something that's like specifically adapted to deal. Usually the way you deal with armor is just by finding a weak point in the armor, like you specifically attack the animal in a part of its body where it is vulnerable, like the underside or the head or the neck or something like that. But
yeah,
the only other thing I can think of is what the mantis shrimp does, because it deals with because it feeds on pretty heavily armored prey, bivalves and things that have these very thick armor shells that really don't have any particular weak spot, and so it deals with them through concussive force rather than like piercing or puncturing. So if you had some animal that, I don't really think this makes very much sense on like a practical scale, but if you had some sort of animal that dealt with armor by smashing it open.
Hey, yeah, smashing it open, I don't think is Oh, nope, that was the wrong. Smashing it open, I don't think is unreasonable. But we'd have to figure out the mechanism. I mean, we do
I think
have
most of the time biting is probably just going to be the easiest way to like apply force to break something open. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because if you just run up and like punch a big, heavily armored animal, I don't know how well that's going to work.
That is true. Kate informing us that Grant is based in part on Jack Horner. Excellent. See, now we need a movie where Jack Horner is being chased by dinosaurs, and that would cement him in my mind more. Always a good day when Mantis Shrimp comes up. Something capable of throwing it against a rock.
Yes, theoretically. There's always the classic Seriema behavior that is hypothesized to have maybe happened in terror birds as well, where they grab their prey and very violently smash it against the ground. Or we could even go the Egyptian vulture route and have them pick up rocks in their beaks and use, they have some instance of tool use. They use these heavy rocks to smash open, well, in the case of the Egyptian vulture, it uses rocks to smash open eggs. But
Oh no.
my camera's gone.
Oh, that finicky camera. The other thing I was thinking of too is if it could use its. Oh no.
Hello?
Are you back?
Okay, well, my microphone's back, but my camera is still refusing. It's just no warning, no reason, just suddenly it's like, oh, well, this camera, this laptop just doesn't have a camera.
What if these ones had would use their forelimbs to simply pry open their prey?
Potentially, like I can certainly see the forelimbs helping to like get a purchase to grip the prey and to expose like a weak point especially or something. I think the jaws would still ultimately
jaws.
be a
Okay.
better means of actually exerting force on the prey and breaking through the armor, but the forelimbs could certainly assist.
That's true. So then we may. I mean, this one could be one like a shorter. Yeah, we could have a shorter face, with
shorter neck.
larger head, and I mean, because some of the critters that we were looking at that have where are the references? I think those are down here. Yeah, here we go. Like here we go. Oleodontine here. Like near the back, the fused jaw has like these grinding surfaces. Oh, that's a rhynchocephalian. Oh no, but these are the rhynchocephalian ones. Perfect. So they do have these sort of crushing parts for their. No, but then we wouldn't want a shorter jaw. Because we could have a longer jaw with sharp bits in the front and then these crushing teeth in the back. You know, I'm imagining if this creature is quite large, it could kind of pick up one of these smaller ones, and then crush with the back teeth.
So it's essentially another variety of durophagy.
Yes, I guess, but they are a larger, and they're eating the other Duraphage, or not. Yeah, I mean, but I mean these ones, their armor isn't that. At least for these ones, the armor isn't that significant.
Yeah, if it had enlarged molars, something like a hyena, we've got these very large back teeth that are specifically adapted for crushing things, and then the beak could be more sort of pointed and tapering, and more for like inflicting damage than actually like
Yes.
crushing through the armor.
And like we mentioned earlier, like these animals would be engaging in hunting behaviors. Like they wouldn't solely be scavenge. They could scavenge, but they
Mhm.
wouldn't solely be scavenging.
Yeah.
Um, and where the other ones are more cursorial, these ones can be more robust, especially their jaws.
So more possibly more ambush predator than capable
Yeah.
of pursuit hunting.
Yeah, so you can give them smaller limbs, a larger head. I guess the carnivores are both gonna kind of go for a larger head. I mean, may change
Mhm.
the shape of this one a little bit. Maybe I'll incorporate that kind of head shape more into this one. Gonna work on that a little bit, I guess, before we put up the next live. Yeah, before we put up the next live. And then a question. Yeah, and then what time is it? Yeah, it's afternoon. I think for next time, we can discuss some of the social and mating behaviors. We can
Mm.
also build out, um, because the rose griffin, we can do the insectivorous variety.
Mhm.
Um, and since the rose griffins eat tubers and things like that, and some of those are burrowing, while others are arboreal, we could also see about eusociality or limblessness among them.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
I like it looks like a squirrel, but it has no limbs.
I mean, are you familiar with Proteryx?
Proteryx. No, I'm not familiar
So
with Proteryx.
Proteryx is a fossil species of hedgehog, I believe, um,
What?
that when it was first discovered, it was only known from the skull and part of the spine, and there were no limbs preserved. And so I'm pretty sure it was Dougal Dixon that
Ah,
popularized this idea that maybe it was limbless, and so it was like a hedgehog, this burrowing hedgehog that had no legs. But I'm pretty sure that has been, yeah, there we go. I'm pretty sure that has been very thoroughly discredited by this point.
well, that is good. Oh, Dougal Dixon, which speculated that may have been a limbless
Yes.
animal with an armored head. Ah, that would be exciting. I'd like to find that image. I think that could be fun. Having literal rat snakes, but rat being snake rats. There we go. Flip the script a little bit.
Mm.
All right. Well, I think that was good for today. I think I'm going to take some time after this to kind of detail all of the different body plans and, make some of those adjustments that we talked about before adding them to our little parade of creatures there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think
Mm.
I think we're good. Calling the stream.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today on Lands Unknown Live and evolving these critters. If you haven't already, you can like and subscribe. And as I mentioned before, a comment or a hype if you can. I'm not sure if everyone can hype yet. Can always help. You can also support us on Patreon, and the May update came out on the Lands Unknown Patreon for all of the members of the Speculative Geographers Guild. So if you want, you can sign up and check that out. You can also check out more from Tira292B. The link to Bib's channel is in the description, as well as his Patreon. Anything you would
Thank you
like
very much.
to plug? I'm looking this way, but you're not there.
Well, next week is the last week before SpecCon. So in fact, I leave for Ireland the day after the next stream. So
Wow.
there will, I think when last I checked, we were looking into getting the talks recorded and posted, but I'm not sure how that's going to end up being done. So I guess keep an eye out for that. Yeah, should be fun. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Yeah, everyone should check out SpecCon. I'm really looking forward to see if they're recorded. There's a bunch of folks there. I believe you're going to be talking about contingency and complexity.
Mm-hmm. Close. Convergence and contingency.
Convergence. Oh, okay. Convergence and contingency in evolution. I think Edgar's going to be talking about music and conlanging or con culture music, which will be quite cool. Madeline's going to be there. Are Jesse and David Peterson going to be there too?
Yes, and
Yes.
they are going to be giving a talk about, I believe, names and naming traditions and using conlangs and how to use conlangs to create names in world building. Jake is also going to be there,
Jake.
doing a talk about, and I can't remember the specific title. Forgive me, Jake, but something to do with anthropology and culture building.
Fantastic.
And I have seen some behind the scenes stuff of their things that are going to be included in their talk, and it all looks very exciting. So
that's really cool.
Yes, I did too. I was told that the Petersons had called dibs on the conlanging talks, and so I was asked politely to do a talk on biology, which I'm fine with because I can talk about that too. I've actually never given a talk about. I haven't given a talk about biology since university, so we'll see how well I do.
Yeah, Jake's going to use anthropology to improve fictional religion, and I believe that Madeline's talk is going to be about magic.
Yes. I think it's about how to use magic, how to integrate magic into settings.
That is fantastic. And then that will begin the World Build Summer, because at the end of the summer, we have the World Building Festival, which is going to be really fun. And I think people are still figuring out what they're going to be doing for that.
Yes.
All right. Well, Thank you, everyone, for watching us this week on Lands Unknown Live. Join us next time as we continue to explore the evolution of the gryphons in the Zaalean Realm. Bye.
Cool. Bye bye.
And end stream.